Alrighty, so today I want to talk about some of the best characters for the new difficult fights, some of the teams that you'd want to run them on, and all of that fun stuff in between. You know, usually this channel and the videos that we do around here are focused more on the beginning content, but I also want to make sure that we broaden the horizons and cover the difficult content as well, because I like to cover all things Dokkan. So, with that being said, let me know what teams you guys are running in these new stages. These are definitely tough. But it is a lot of fun, right? Just different types of format here, lots of different flavors of content, if you will. There's short form fights, there's long form fights, there's kind of in between. There's fights where you need to deal a lot of damage. There's fights where you got to deal with locking. There's fights where you got to fight different bosses and then go from phase to phase, kind of like Super Battle Road. It is a lot of fun. So, with that being said, there are going to be some obvious things here and some not so obvious things here, right? When it comes to characters that are going to perform in this content and characters who are not going to perform in this content. So we can just look at a lot of these characters on the homepage here and give them a bit of a shine. So first and foremost, we have the obvious, right? I don't need to talk about this too much, but I will quickly sort of touch on it, right? We have LRAGL Super Gogeta here. This is a very, very, very impressive character, and there's a lot of different things that you can do with this guy tech-wise that's going to be extremely important for you in the new content, right? Looking at Gogeta specifically, or not Gogeta specifically, but the Vegeta side, you want to stack up as much as possible, and then when you can tag over to Goku, I recommend that you do that as soon as possible in order to get the evasion chance and stuff like that, right? Getting the dodge chance as well as the guard is going to be extremely important for what you're looking to do with this character, being able to kind of park him and slot one a little bit, and then when you get into Gogeta, the tech that I would recommend that you do, well, I guess what we should talk about is the active skill on Goku first. Only use the Veku portion of this character if you were in a pinch, and the only way you're going to live is if you do that. So in specific, you guys will see this video later today when I decide to upload it, but I actually had a run that went south on stream doing the Jiren fight where I had an AoE and like the character wasn't going to be able to tank it, so what I had to do was forego the Gogeta fusion and use Veku in order to get the Ghost Usher, because the Ghost Usher is extremely valuable and one of the most overpowered mechanics in the game. This ended up keeping the androids reliable for a very long time, and there were a lot of strats that you could run with Pikkon that made this character very viable. So that is why they're really good in difficult content, especially when you tag over to the Goku portion. You have all this defensive buildup, you have the guard, you have the dodge chance, and Gogeta is immune to status debuffs, so that's going to be extremely helpful. Now, one trick that I've learned with Gogeta is you don't want to use the active support right away, right? What I found is it works best when you use this on the second appearance, when you have him linked up with Vegito and you're using a taunt in like the last phase, right? You want to try and hold on to these tools that you have at your disposal until you get to the final phase, right? This was sort of what worked for me in all of my runs so far where I've cleared the event, is holding on to the God turn for Vegito until the very end, right? Being able to know that we're going to kill, because Gogeta or Vegito does do a substantial amount of damage, and we'll be talking about him here in just a moment. But you guys should know at this point, Gogeta, very good for the new content. So we'll just talk about his best friend over here. If we can go to the link partners, this is going to make this a little bit easier. Why did that not work? But if we click right here, what is going on here with my, okay, whatever. We got to click it. I don't know what's going on with my computer, but we want to click Vegito here specifically. Looking at Vegito, it's going to be a very, very similar sort of skeleton, right? Where we want to go into the Goku and the Vegeta portion, and then when we use Vegeta in specific, we're going to be able to get a little bit of defensive stacks in, but you also have the offensive capabilities of the Goku side of things, where you sort of just want to hold on to that fusion until you absolutely have to use it. Then once you do, you want to make sure that you save the taunt for the last phase, or to get you out of a pinch to get to the last phase, right? Because in this content, specifically the Jiren fights, like the Universe Survival Saga fights, you're going to find yourself in that predicament where you're like either locked or there's an AoE coming, and it's like, okay, I don't have a choice. I have to use the taunt because there's going to be a super that kills me here. But again, I would always recommend that with Vegito specifically, you tag into him or you fuse into him on the last phase, and then use the taunt when you know you have the fight in the bag, or you want to set him up for another Vegito taunt on the next turn in order to win these fights, because this guy far and away is going to be your best tool in this new content, and is going to make it much easier for you with his taunt turn, just because it makes life very easy for you and you're not going to have too much to worry about. So Vegito, Gogeta, you guys should know these two are slam dunk characters for the new content. Don't really need to go into them too much. Let's go ahead and move on to the next character that I think is really well designed for these fights, and that is going to be the Great Ape Vegeta EZA. Now that might come as a little bit, maybe not a surprise to most people, because I think people are definitely realizing how good this character is, but just to keep it cut and dry. We don't really need to talk about this too much. It's just he has really high damage reduction. He has guard, and you can comfortably keep him in slot 1, and he's going to hold it down for a vast majority of the fight. I guess against like Int Jiren, it could be a little bit of a problem, but the way that you would kind of work around that is with an Usher, with the taunt, right? Like you could even use like Beast Gohan's active. I know people are definitely on the sort of Beast Gohan like Beast Gohan is over party train, right? Where it's like, okay, Beast Gohan is done. This is not the content for him. And that's okay, because there's a lot of fights that also are for Gohan. So it kind of works both ways, the way that this anniversary has been paced out. But this Vegeta is going to be sort of fulfill that role, right? Where you want to put him in slot 1, and he is oftentimes going to be looking extremely impressive defensively, and he's going to be able to hold it down for you very well. Obviously, every character is going to have a situation where they can get caught. It's just how the game works right now. And so that is how I'm feeling about this character. Overall, very, very good. So Vegeta, I think, is really good for the new content. Now, moving along, right? I think that Goku and Frieza specifically, I'm not really going to break them down too much because I don't want to just be like, oh yeah, no kidding, the headliners are good, right? Like, duh. But with this Goku and Frieza in specific, their ability to build up as the fight goes on, I think, is really important, and they have definitely seen a bit of a stock up in the new content. So I think that this is good for them, and Gohan is going to be the same thing. Just to kind of briefly speedrun these two, right? These are both going to be very, very good characters for you in this content, and I think it's going to work out very well. Gohan, obviously, you want to save that active skill until like towards the end, and you don't want to be putting him in like slot 1 or anything like that, or putting him in front of supers. So that is where characters with scouters are going to become very valuable, and we're going to talk about more of those here in a moment. Now, last but not least, a surprise entry here. Namek Goku. This guy's a stacker. This is long form content. The first few phases of a lot of these new fights are not too bad, so he's actually going to have some time to stack up and get to where you would rather him be, right? The defensive numbers, the offensive numbers are actually going to be in that impressive spot, and it's also worth noting that he is probably going to be getting new skill orb soon, right? So it's like, we shall see. He'll be getting new ones with like that'll increase his defense. Giving him extra defense is going to be insanely helpful, and then there's going to be a decent bit of extreme class enemies in these fights. So Namek Goku definitely seen a bit of a stock up here, and obviously I think everybody is happy to see that because this is just a really fun character. I think when it comes to full power Frieza right now, I'm not too high on him. He can look okay, but again, it is a bit of a tricky spot for him just because I don't like his teams that much. That's really what it comes down to, right? Super Easy A Cell is okay, right? But we're just talking about mainly like the main units here. So moving along, right? We talked about Vegito, we talked about Gogeta. Looking at the sort of non-anniversary side of things, this Goku, we know he's good, but a lot of bosses are able to super outside of the giant form now. I think that Akatsuki's kind of caught on a little bit, and it is going to be a little bit trickier to use these characters and cheese their giant form, right? It's going to be a little more of the traditional way that it has been in years prior, where, you know, giant form isn't like the be-all, end-all anymore. So I think that is worth noting a little bit in terms of like how you want to run teams. This Goku right here, he's pretty good, right? I'm not going to say he's insane. But the Super Saiyan 4 portion, the support that you're giving, right, the ability to potentially take away AoEs and supers is always going to be there, so there is usages. Now, moving on to a very good character for the new content here, we have Gotenks. Now, Gotenks, you guys know when it came to the Memorial Stone Wish, a lot of people are picking this guy up, right? He works extremely well alongside the new fusions with his slot 1 capabilities, his offense, his defense, the ability to counter, right? The extra attack, the extra defense, the extra damage reduction, the ability to just be a solid character to fit into multiple spots, multiple slots, wherever he needs to go. This character can go. I think slot 1 is where this character is going to look at his most suspect at times. He can look good there, but it's not always going to be the case. But putting this guy in slot 2, slot 3, having that active skill, right? This guy is just holding it down for you. Overall, I think this character is really, really good. Now, moving along, we are going to go down to the worldwide download celebration units. Broly is okay. The Int one, I think where Int Broly is really going to shine the most is just with his domain up, but after that, things do get a little bit tricky. But the kind of counter with that is that he does have a revive, so I think that is very valuable. Looking at Tech Broly, this is, again, not the content that's really suited for him. But he can definitely work. What I would recommend that you do, the overall strategy with this character, is going to be the first appearance that you see him, float him off and keep him de-transformed, so that way, or keep him in base, I guess, so that way you have the most amount of turns with the invincibility, quote unquote, as possible, with the damage reduction rate being high for those 3 turns from appearance. So you're definitely going to want to make sure that this guy is floated off the first time you see him. I think that's going to be one of the better techs that you can do. Moving along from the LRs here, or from the Worldwide Celebration LRs. I don't think this trio is really up to snuff, but they can look okay, right? They'll look all right at times. Tech UI, he's just okay. I think that just the normals are too much. Really, I don't love his situation defensively right now, but what I will say is that his domain against dodge canceling is very good, but I don't know how good that is when he's potentially just throwing runs for you a lot. It can work, but it is very high risk, high reward, if you will. So this UI Goku, I'm not going to recommend too hard for the new content, but it can work. Now, Beast Gohan. I know a lot of you guys are excited about this. Not his best situation right now. Does this mean he's fallen off a cliff? He's nowhere near as good as he was? Absolutely not. This guy is still easily one of the best characters in the game. His intro buff, you just have to be a little bit more careful about how you're using him now. The days of him being this just uber safe security blanket character where it's just always slot 1 at all times, don't need to worry about anything. That is not the case in these new fights because the intro buff is easily wearing off. So I have to at least note that, but I also want to make sure it is known that he is still very, very good. And if you want to throw him on a team, you absolutely can. So looking around, assuming that the year 7s are here, hopefully they'll be very good for this new content. I think Janemba's okay. I really like the value of Tech Gogeta right now. Tech Gogeta has just been holding it down very well with the Scouter, especially from turn 4 onwards. Huge fan of this unit's performance right now. Definitely would recommend him, but there are going to be situations where he can be in trouble, especially in base. The 6 years are okay. I actually like Evolution Blue Vegeta a little bit more than UI Goku in some of these fights right now, just because of the dodge canceling. This guy's just going to be a little bit more safe right now. So just want to make sure that we cover all the bases here. So when it comes to LRs, I'm pretty sure we are good now. Talking about some of the best characters that you can run. When it comes to building them on a team, we'll talk about that more in a little bit, but the TUR side of things, I think it's going to come down to just a few factors here, right? Super Easy A Vegito is very good. Super Easy A Gogeta is very good. Daima Goku is extremely impressive. I think Glorio is still very, very good. This Mr. Satan can look pretty good. Beerus is also very, very nice as well. Looking at the Dokkan Fest side of things, I'm very impressed with what this Tech Buhan has been able to do. Running his team is very nice because you're able to bring characters like Boo Tanks and Fat Boo, all those fun things. I haven't had the most amount of time to really experiment with these characters in the new fights yet. I've sort of just kind of been using like the really good teams. I did the Power Beyond Super Saiyan and Final Trump Card missions, but those Super ECAs overall, I think you guys kind of get the general gist of things, right? Where it's like Glorio, Daima Goku, the Super ECAs, and then just kind of filling out the team with the LRs is really going to be the way that you want to go. So if we look specifically at the Glorio sort of team, I think that is where you're going to get your best bet with TURs. But let's go ahead and talk about the LRs here, or the best teams here that you are going to want to run for these teams. Now, first and foremost, you guys know at this point that the Vegito lead is the best leader skill in the game. So the team that I would recommend would go as follows. It would be a team consisting of this Vegito, this Gogeta, Gotenks, and then you kind of, so like this is your core 3, right? Gogeta, Vegito, Gotenks. These are like sort of the 3 that I'm running basically everywhere, right? And then you kind of have a bit of a mix-up, right? Whether you want to run Gohan, whether you want to run Goku and Frieza, whether you want to run Super Saiyan 4 Goku, whether you want to run Broly. I think all of these teams have very good options. Now, specifically, the team that I ran for my no item run on the Jiren stage of the Goku story, aka the hardest fight in the game, it went as follows. We had Gogeta, we had Vegito, we brought Gohan, we brought Gotenks, we brought Tech Broly, and we brought, I believe it was Great Ape Vegeta. Or no, we brought Beast Gohan, excuse me. So it was Beast Gohan, it was Broly, Gotenks, Gogeta, Vegito, Gohan. So that was one of the best teams that I've ran so far. Another setup that you could potentially do is work like an uncontrollable power team, so that way you have the double Broly domain. This can potentially work, but you have to keep in mind that this stage is a little bit more catered to the 220% leader skill, so it is going to be a little bit tougher, but overall I still think it can work out pretty well, as long as you are just a bit more careful. But there are ways to kind of get around that, right? With uncontrollable power, you guys know Broly, you could run Super Saiyan 3 Goku if you want. You could bring Janemba for that potential giant form that can work out at times. I think Buhan works out very nicely, and Fat Boo has his utility still. This STR Kid Boo can look impressive, but can potentially get caught by a super. I think that could be a little bit of an issue for this character as well. Obviously, Buhan is still insanely good, and these fights haven't really changed anything about where he's going. Still one of the best characters in the game easily right now. Just overall a mistake for a Super Easy A, so I kind of like where that team is going. But the last team I want to discuss is going to be the Glorio-led Demonic Power team. Trying to pull this one up here. You guys know how this website likes to be sometimes with pulling up characters, but here we go. I believe it's page 4 is where the TURs start. Yes, so Glorio here, I think his team has a lot of potential with Demonic Power and Accelerated Battle. You guys know how both of these work at this point. Demonic Power, it gives you access to Gohans. So you get access to a rotation of like Beast Gohan and Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. That could potentially work, floating off to Glorios, and then bringing like some Majin Buu characters will work out as well for you. So in specific, things are going to be a little bit tricky, but there you guys go. Right, the Gogeta-led team, the Vegito-led team, I think Battle of Fate can potentially work out with the Goku and Frieza sort of setup, right? Two of those, that character could definitely work, especially with the long stacking. But overall, those are some of the best characters and teams that you can use for this specific fight. So let me know down below what you guys think. Who are you running in here? And stay tuned later for my full run against the hardest fight in the game against Jiren right now. I had a lot of fun doing that one. It was definitely a fight that made me think. And you're definitely going to have to get a bit lucky if you want to beat it, in my opinion, sometimes. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you were new. And I'll see you all in the next one.